Hi there, I'm Natalie Dormer and I play Marjorie Tyrrell.
And I'm Jack Gleeson and I play Joffrey Baratheon.
Hi, this is George R.R. Martin. I wrote the books and I also did the script for this episode.
And I'm Alex Graves and I directed this episode. This episode was the episode you heard about if you got hired to work on the show. At least in the director world, it was, it's always like, so this Joffrey person, what happens? And there's this red wedding thing. What happens after that? Because that really pissed me off. And they would, it was funny because when I did season 3, I was given, you read the whole season, you read the Red Wedding, and I had not read the books yet and was in the usual shock that they were all murdered. And I called David and Dan and they said, well, we shouldn't tell you this, but Joffrey gets killed like right after this. And it was like, oh, okay, thank God.
Yeah. I think it was a really smart move to put the Purple Wedding so early in the season. It really
It's quite a shock.
Hit the momentum, yeah.
And was a decision, too. I remember them talking about it.
In the novels, it all takes place in the same book, A Storm of Swords. The Red Wedding is about 2/3 of the way through the book, and the what the fans called the Purple Wedding is later in the same book. I never actually call it the Purple Wedding in the books. The Red Wedding is an actual term from the books. The Purple Wedding is a term invented by fans.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Would you like us to cease, George? How do you feel about it?
Feel about the Purple Wedding?
about the title, about the fan allocated title.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It helps to distinguish them. Now, this opening scene is Ramsay Snow and Reek, the former Theon, hunting a woman through the woods. It's not actually a scene from the books, although this sort of thing is referred to, but never dramatized in the books.
One interesting bit of trivia with this scene, because so little has ever changed in the making of the show, is that this wasn't the first scene in the script. It was sort of the second sequence. It originally opened at Dragonstone, and when I read this sequence and knew that I was sort of reintroducing Ramsay in Reek's world, I remembered this great Monty Python bit that was Summer in the Country, directed by Sam Peckinpah, and it was this horrific massacre and that was set up as this beautiful British countryside sort of scene, and that was in my head. We went scouting and it sort of grew into a larger sequence, and David and Dan called me after they saw the cut and they went, well, we have to open with that because it just feels like the right way to open, and it also sets the tone.
Yeah, it's a fantastic opening scene.
But it sets the tone that something really awful is going to happen. And that seemed like a good way to start.
Is this Northern Ireland that you're shooting in here?
Yeah, this was
the woods.
It was meant to be. David and Dan were upset. Well, not upset, but they weren't happy that it wasn't a little snowy, because it's meant to be in a slightly more northern area. And we shot this on July 2nd in Northern Ireland on fairly warm days. So we took a lot of it into the shade, which worked obviously tonally. And look at that shot of him. The whole sequence, the dogs, everything that's going on, and it's his scene. He takes it over.
Alfie's performance recently has just been incredible.
And cutting right to the sausage.
Yes.
Yeah, nice and subtle.
At one point early on, I'd actually tried to convince David and Dan that we should do this whole episode as the wedding. Make the entire episode just as we did with Blackwater, and later we would do it to Watchers on the Wall, have the entire hour be devoted just to the wedding, because there was enough happening at the wedding for that. But we had these other scenes that we did have to get in to check in on the other characters, which is why I always say we should have more than 10 episodes, so we could have a little more room to breathe. But we are one of the tightest shows on television, I think.
I have to say I'm relieved it went that way, because if the whole hour had been the wedding, I probably would have been admitted to the hospital pulling up.
We all would have.
It was enough to see the 32-page scene. Question about George, the wedding, and Joffrey's death and the Red Wedding. At what point when you were writing did you see the, for lack of a better phrase, the architecture of there'll be the Red Wedding and then Joffrey will die? When did you get that idea? In what point in the process? Because it's such critical moments.
I knew that fairly early in the process. It's hard to remember now because this is a book that came out in the year 2000, so yeah, I was writing it a long time ago. Storm of Swords, the third book in the series, is the longest book in the series, and it's at one point when I turned it in, my publisher said this is too long, we need to divide it into 2 books. And they wanted to end the book right after the Red Wedding, and I said, no, you better not do that. Ending the first book right after the Red Wedding, I don't know how many readers will actually come back. We have to give them a little more. We have to give them some victory for the good guys. Or at least some punishment for the bad guys.
So David and Dan, being David and Dan, went ahead and ended the season with it.
If I fight with an edge blade, I'll have no one left to pay me.
I haven't used a sparring sword since I was 9.
These scenes with Jaime and Bronn, of course, are alteration from what's in the books, where Jaime practices with Sir Ilan Payne instead, on the theory that Sir Ilan, who has had his tongue removed, cannot tell anyone how inept Jaime now is with his left hands. But we were forced to abandon that because, sadly, the actor who plays Sir Ilan is very ill.
This was a tricky scene, oddly, to shoot because in the one-on-one nature of the fight and those 2 actors, they hadn't had quite enough time.
There's nowhere to hide the camera crew.
Yes, that, but also there was a concern they'd hurt each other. They felt a little rusty shooting it, and there was a little hesitation in the fighting. And we ended up shooting longer, but they handled it just fine. And here we are. Mr. Happy. I just love this. I have a great fondness for the Boltons just because of the level of acting that goes on is so, like all the acting, the bar is so high, it's a thrill. And
It's spectacular.
And the only directing that went on in this scene was saying basically to the son, you want more from your father, and to the father, you've got to be more dissatisfied. You've got to be more bored, less interested, more. And they'd be like, more? And I was like, yeah, just keep going. And until I was just laughing at how awful it was.
I hear you took a hand from the Kingslayer.
Word travels. How he screamed. You would have loved it.
And the shaving scene. It was funny in an episode where there's a 32-page wedding scene. There's also like an 8-page shaving scene. And at this point in the production, the DP was so exhausted that she was lying on a bounce card on the floor, ill, unable to stand. While we were shooting this, my dearest Annette, my director of photography for 18 years, she was lying on the ground, calling out to Rocky, the gaffer, and directing the lighting from the floor. And look at the level of work that's going on. And this is her at her worst.
Wow. She's tough.
We've been flaying our enemies for 1,000 years. The flayed man is on our banners.
My banners.
Yeah, she is.
You're not a Bolton, you're a Snow.
I love this.
All of the actors here are amazing.
Amazing. And the writing. I mean, your writing is incredible that we don't really realize we're launching the Moat Cailin plot because we're so interested in the father and the son. And just as we're getting interested in the father and the son, you have this horrible situation of manipulating Reek while he shaves. Another thing that's a testament to the producers on the show is there's a shot in here looking down at Ramsay where we're looking straight down on him in the moment that he decides to go for the manipulation of Reek and his father. And Annette, the director of photography, ultimately was sent home ill. We kind of went back later and said, we'd really like to reshoot that close-up of Ramsay. And so we shot this one shot of Ramsay, I think, 2.5 months later in a tent.
Belfast.
I think at an exterior in Northern Ireland. And it was worth it.
Kind of validates Annette's talent, you know. She goes for half a day and after reshoot
forget it.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true of all the talent on the show, really. You can skip a beat.
Sorry, my lord.
Give him the razor. I'm not a Bolton, Father. What does it matter?
I mean, the light there's beautiful. Half his face in shadow.
Go on, Reek. A nice, close shave.
Was Alfie, was he trained in the art of barber?
No, we had to, there was a little bit of training. And well, to be honest, this was actually possibly the most difficult scene to shoot for me in 4 episodes because of the, you know, you would shave off the fake hair. This is the shot right here that we shot in a tent later. But, you know, you shave off the fake hair and you've got to put it back on and next setup. And in this setup, he still should have hair. But now this one, he doesn't.
Oh, of course.
And it was just this Rubik's Cube of facial hair.
It's like when you're smoking a cigarette or whatever, it constantly has to be the right, right length in between takes.
I always felt, I mean, directorially, I always felt like the scene was a scene out of Jaws for some reason, because Jaws has all these incredible sort of shifts in perspective and build as you come closer and closer to the threat of the shark. They're sort of, we're out in these wider profile-y shots, and it's we ease right in on the guys very slowly, right at the point where they're all utterly engaged and fascinated by what Ramsay's...
That one. Sorry, Alex. That shot.
Yes.
The one that's straight
Looking down, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that tension that I love of Theon kind of, you know, like the audience are wondering whether he's going to break or is he going to stay faithful, you know. It's that tension that really makes this scene wonderful, I think.
And then he breaks and keeps breaking and gives up John. It's just so awful. When I read this scene, I was just blown away by the writing. I was just like, I couldn't believe we got to shoot it. Which is often the case.
Yeah, you just kind of want him to slit his throat.
Jon Snow's at Castle Black. Who the fuck's Jon Snow?
Their bastard brother.
Alfie has done wonderful work on Theon from the very beginning. He's always, and his transformation to Reek is great too.
You want to prove yourself a bold...
I agree with you, George. It's been...
Gather whatever men you can and ride for Moat Caelan. Bring this creature of yours.
I don't think I could love working with
You'll be of some use.
actors more than I love these guys. I just love shooting them, and it's like working with just a diamond that you could, if you even need to polish it. It's just great.
Michael Houten is an incredible actor.
Oh my God.
I'm afraid foreigners aren't welcome at such
Here we go.
affairs.
For me, this was the beginning of the wedding. And this was a oneer that they cut out of, and it cuts wide, and I don't know why they switched takes, but they did, and I'm sure they had their reason.
I'm guilty of being seen with my own wife's handmaiden. My father will ask you if there's anything more, and you'll tell him some clever lie.
No, I will not. How long do you imagine your father and sister would let me live if they...
Bit of trivia here is it was a oneer, and I tend to not cut. I just shoot take after take after take to keep everybody hot, especially the actors. And when you do that with some of the actors, especially these two, they riff in between takes and they joke around and insult each other and pick on each other and say, God, you were horrible in that last scene. I can't believe it. I hope you're going to be better this time. And the dailies of this are hysterical if you could sit through them.
Have you ever known your father to make an idle threat?
Yeah, the dynamic between Peter and Conleth is very funny. They've got a good...
Conleth would say,
back and forth.
That was probably the worst work you've done on the show, Peter. Let's go again.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Bumbling dad.
Yeah.
So this is the breakfast scene.
Mm-hmm.
I should be all at your grace.
And here's our mature, kind, and polite Joffrey.
So adult.
Right up until he gets the sword.
Mm-hmm.
She's the whore I told you about. The dark hair.
That's another thing that, as a director, it's fun to have the whole cast there. It's not like, oh God, they're all going to be there, and oh, da-da-da-da-da. It's just fun. Everyone's so focused.
But it was the joy of the wedding to all be together in one place, you know? We never normally will see each other unless it's for junkets and premieres and... I mean, all those principal characters in one go at the wedding. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
It was like camp.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know, it was like herding us, Alex, but yeah.
Well, and also it was more than a week suffering through Croatia. But
tiring and hot, but...
Yeah, it was probably up to like 7 or so days ultimately that you guys were really kind of together, which was fun.
Yeah. That green room kind of became our little habitat, you know? Felt like it was a greenhouse or something.
So the whole wedding was shot in Croatia?
Yeah, the whole wedding was shot in Croatia. George, this was at the Botanical Gardens that so much of the show has been shot in. And then is
that in Dubrovnik or Split?
This is Dubrovnik. It's outside Dubrovnik.
Oh, careful, Your Grace. Nothing cuts like Valyrian steel.
So they say.
Ah, the book. So we had an air cannon in the book to blow the papers up, and everybody was like, this seems like a little much. And I said, oh, you cut it together, and Jack will look pretty cool. There he is.
Such a great sword should have a name. What shall I call her?
This is one of the examples of young Jack, which is, you're walking around shooting the scene. He's a wonderful, intelligent young man on the set, and you say action, and the most horrifying young king you can imagine suddenly comes out on camera. It's such a great performance.
I spend my life reassuring fans who come up to me in the street that you're a nice person, Jack.
Really? Thank you. Keep the lie alive,
now,
I suppose, yeah.
How does it feel to do that transformation, Jack?
It's fun. Yeah, it's 100% fun, because you can, especially when you're kind of in the presence of such amazing kind of actors that I'd usually be quite deferent to in real life. It's kind of a weird dynamic when you have the power and you can kind of sneer at them. But, yeah, it's nice to drop out of it every once in a while in between takes.
Our friendship. There's a ship waiting in the harbour bound for Pentos.
What?
You'll have your own cabin, of course, and across the narrow...
I should say for these two in the scene that this was a joy to shoot and very, very challenging because I was very worried about shooting the scene because it's the bridge from an incredibly successful love story that these two actors and everybody have put together over the last few years from the book that has to somehow start to head us towards what'll be the murder in the finale. And I was in the group that was having trouble justifying that Peter could actually murder her the way it had been played in the 2 years leading up to this. And we really worked the scene a lot. We did a lot of takes and a lot of different levels. And it was lit, again, by Netta and set up by me to be shot at the same... They're both being shot at the same time. And so we could do whatever we wanted to do, acting-wise, for 3 hours. And we just shot and shot and shot until we really felt like we had not too much, but not too little to sort of get to what would become the trial and the murder.
And did the aggression and the frustration boil up? I mean, are these later takes that evolved that way, Alex? Or...
It's interesting that, thank you, that's a great question. This is probably phase 3. Phase 1 was very good acting. Phase 2 was over the top, really intense. And then it was like, okay, great, let's relax and go again. And then
a bit of tiredness helps.
And yeah.
You take the edge off it. No, but it does, right?
Yeah.
You hit it really hard and then you come down slightly.
Well, and I think they started to forget what they were doing a little bit more. And and then I had said, I got overly wound up. I said, what would you think if you slapped Braun? And of course, Sibel said, oh yes, but is it all right if I do that? So we did one, she hit him, and I went over and I said, okay, let's not do that again. That was probably over the top, too intense. And so we went again, And it was this take where she turned around and whacked him really hard. And I went straight in, and I was about to go to Sibel. And before I could get there, Braun turns to me and he says, I told her to do it. It helps.
The Shay-Tyrion dynamic in the show is actually quite different than in the books.
Mm-hmm.
The character of Shay is different. I mean, Sibel's take on it and the way David and Dan wrote Shay threw me a little at first, because in the book, Shay is completely insincere. She's totally just in it for the power and status. She has no real feelings for Tyrion. On one hand, she's much more compliant in her early scenes with Tyrion because she's just trying to please him and get money and clothes and jewels and all that. But on the other hand, she betrays him pretty easily. I think actually what David and Dan and Sibel acting did is better than what I have in the books. But it's certainly different, and it did make it more challenging to lead up to the murder at the end, because in the book she makes the jump pretty quickly and easily. Okay, I'm losing my powerful lover, but I'm getting an even more powerful lover, and I'm getting rewards and gold and gems. But this Shay, TV show Shay, really has feelings for Tyrion, so it's a whole different dynamic.
And it makes the scenes, obviously, in episode 10 so much more tragic and poignant for that reason.
It's also a great example of the magic of casting, because by casting Sibel, they got a very intense talent who is also an extremely elegant, lovely person. And that's behind everything, and that really affects everything while you're watching her. She's playing the character, but it rounds her out in a more complex way that's just made for spectacular casting.
Binding glue is made from horses.
Now, this is my other favorite group of actors, and not the last time I'll say this is my favorite group of actors, but these guys are, to me, these guys are like, this is just crack working with these guys for a director, because they're all overly qualified and talented to play anything. And I thought this scene was hysterical because 2 out of the 3 people are unbelievably bored with what's going on. And the religious fanatic in the middle is trying to make it all work and hold it together. And we're slowly setting up a mother who has a problem with her daughter.
You barely know her. You think she's sweet because she smiles when you visit. She is sullen and stubborn and sinful.
And it's also setting up what's one of the true few fairy tale, for me, scenes in the story, which is sending the witch up to the little girl's room. This next scene is such a, I feel like I'm reading a children's book. And also, I do want to stop really quickly and talk about Tara Fitzgerald. Tara Fitzgerald, who is she's not quite as talked about as some of the actors on the show, is absolutely spectacular to work with, but I think is one of the stronger talents I've ever seen. She's just, she doesn't get enough attention for how great she is on the show, I think.
I heard it.
And it frightened you?
Sir Axel was my uncle. He was always kind to me.
Well, I think one of the unfortunate drawbacks of having a cast of size is that a lot of our actors don't get the attention they deserve because there's so many other actors in the show.
Well, and they're also damn talented.
I mean, you see it every year in the Emmys. We nominate no one for Best Actress or Best Actor. We nominate everyone in supporting because no one has enough time to be actually considered a lead. It's a wealth of riches that we have, an embarrassment of riches in our acting talent.
But I suffered in other ways, sweet girl, believe me.
Well, I think we're spoiled as actors with darn best writers and directors getting, so works both ways.
And source material, yeah.
Now, this was fun because we got into rehearsal and we lit this candle, and Annette and I just went, you know what, let's use the candle and let's light it with the candle, and let's...
Was that it? Was that the only source of light?
It was.
It's interesting. We had a very similar experience in the scene that I shot with the Michelle McLaren directing, when the scene with Tom and I in bed.
Cat.
Me coming in with a candle and lighting. Sometimes it's really helpful carrying the candle for the practical source. it's all you need, right?
That was a great scene, too.
Because it's so hard when you're in this world when there's only natural light and firelight, right? DPs, they have to be constantly imaginative about using those two forms of lighting.
Natalie, you're being so eloquent and lovely, and all I think about is that's the cat scene. Because I came to watch you act that day, because I had 5 minutes, and you were sitting there dealing with that cat, jumping around and messing
that cat
everything
would
up.
not do what it was told.
And you were so great about it.
Oh, bless, gosh, yes.
An unruly cat.
DC and I were having problems with that cat.
Mm-hmm. But that cat was very popular. You should have seen the internet explode when Sir Pounce appeared.
You see, that was we're talking about a different episode. I do apologise, but George, I have to ask. So originally, Marjorie gave him that cat in the books. Is that correct? Did she give him the kitten?
Boy, did she? To tell you the truth, I don't remember.
Again, it's probably a long time ago.
The name is so funny, though. I love it. It's so kind of like childish.
There are a number of kittens in the book. He has like 3 of them, not just one. But Sir Pounce is one. Of course, in the books, Tommen is considerably younger. Mm-hmm. They have aged up Tommen, as with many of the characters. He's only about 8 years old in the books. Of course, which gives a whole different cast to his impending marriage to Marjorie.
Mm-hmm.
This scene with Brandon and company was shot in an absolute Northern Ireland downpour. And luckily the trees gave us enough cover that you can't see all the rain. But it was just a deluge. It's all about the setup of not only the White Attack, but the final discovery of the tree that leads them to the Three-Eyed Raven. And I always called him the Green Seer because of the books. George, I mean, is he called a Green Seer or is he called the Three-Eyed Raven? I could never understand what I should be calling him.
Well, he's called the Three-Eyed Crow in the books. The Green Seers were the people from the Children of the Forest who had similar powers, and he's sort of their successor. When they do find him at the end, he's sometimes called the last Green Seer.
Right.
Because the children are almost gone.
Right.
But
that's where I got it. David and Dan and I always talked about Close Encounters of the Third Kind when we talked about the sequence, because it's setting up the sort of the Devil's Tower equivalent of, there's this image of the tree. For what it's worth, David and Dan and I went on and on over and over and over again about what a masterpiece Close Encounters of the Third Kind is and how influenced we all are by it all the time. But I love this, that we got to see bits of the future and the past.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Was that Sean Bean's eye that went past so quickly?
Yeah.
I know where we have to go.
And here comes the wedding.
Trying desperately not to fall over the train.
Oh, but you look spectacular. Both of you, look at this. I love
that dress. I have to talk about this dress.
Please.
There were 3-4 dress fittings. Every single thorn flower is embroidered by hand. The man-hours that went into that dress.
It was immaculate, yeah.
And Michelle Clapton's seamstress team. I mean, really incredible work.
So, Natalie, when you have a real-life wedding, you're going to have a lot to
It's never going to be beaten, is it, George? I should just give up.
She'll be calling Michelle right away.
Yeah, you should wear that. You should wear that dress.
I don't think this will ever be trumped. I've been married about 4 times, I think it is now, professionally.
True.
And this was obviously the cream of the crop, and I don't think it will ever be trumped, ever.
This was fun because Jack and I talked about this a couple of times, but you're starting to, I think we were all trying to say, okay, he's king, he's growing up, and it's going to get much worse now, and really try to misdirect the fact that he would be the victim by the end of the episode, but in fact, I was starting to try to build the tension that if we're at this level, at this point in the episode, somebody's not going to make it. But you would never guess it would be him.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say?
It feels proportionate.
Yeah, there are no hints or kind of allusions to it.
He's becoming a man, which is very scary. This was a quick attempt at humor.
You might find it suits you. Not now, Mace. Lord Tywin and I are speaking. Anyway, I don't know what you're complaining about. I'm paying my share.
Should we stick golden roses and half the meat pies to commemorate your generosity?
No. Your heartfelt thank you is its own reward. I would imagine I'd be hearing it again before long. Wars are rather expensive. The Iron Bank will have its due. How they love to remind everyone. Almost as much as you Lannisters with your debts.
I'm not worried about the Iron Bank.
We both know you're smarter than that.
Now, I wanted to do this shot, and we couldn't get the... we built a platform for that guy to stand on because he actually wasn't tall enough still on his stilts. But we found all of these circus performers all over Croatia and had to go rehearse them in a warehouse for days leading up to this while I was shooting them out in the Viper fight. I'd be like smashing Oberyn's head and then run over to see the circus performers and make sure the fire was blowing far enough.
Interesting juxtaposition.
It was crazy.
Someone follows me without an invitation, I'm the last person they ever follow.
Now, here's an interesting ambiguity in this scene. Is Bronn lying to Tyrion about Shae? Did he actually put her on that ship? And she was then snatched off, as we find out later, by the Lannisters? Or
no,
did he not put her on the ship, and is he...
Well, I mean, the understanding was that she was snatched later and that he actually is being sincere and trying to calm him down.
Ah, okay.
Alex, I'll never forget the way you congregated us all that first day. You know, it was 5 days of shooting and Seagull Ross, who we all love so much, and stood in front and explained to us, talked us through all the vignettes, sort of did like a pantomime style, this is how it's going to be, guys. Like it was like school assembly, us all sitting there and watching you.
It was really funny, and you were
standing right there in the middle where the band are now.
Yeah, with the whole cast, and you're just thinking, God, they just think you're an idiot. Now here's the poisoning.
Okay, guys, this is how it's going to be for the next 5 days.
No, I was thinking more, oh my God,
remember,
we've
Jack?
got so much work to do.
Here's the crucial moment, of course. The Queen of Thorns takes the poison from Sansa's
Yeah, well,
necklace.
she just did
Yes, yes.
And it's in a little
I'd say that moment was
very
rewound a few
subtly done.
It was rewound a few times to catch that shot.
Yeah, there's shots later that I would be going again on just to make sure that Diana was where she was supposed to be in the edit.
Sure.
There's Sigur Rós. It was so great they did it. And they were so great.
I mean, the timing of it, what you and Katie Weiland in editing it did so well is making sure that all the pieces fitted together in the timing. I mean, that must have been quite a tall order.
Can I point out that this actress just named the editor by name? I mean, how classy is that? You don't see that very often. That was very lovely of you. And Katie cut this episode in many of the best episodes. One of the great talents behind the show and a great storyteller and is obsessed with the characters in the best way.
Everyone. The Queen.
Here we go.
Would like to say a few words.
I just love him. His name's Jack, right? Here she is. Now, to keep talking about how great Natalie is, so we're shooting this for 4 or 5 days. We had storms come in almost half the time. We were dealing with either rain or heavy wind that was actually threatening the schedule. It was kind of nerve-wracking. And everybody did their thing, and everything went back and forth. But Natalie was always ready, focused, and thinking about what she could do every minute. And it's so impressive to watch. And I'm running around with my head cut off, and I go home and I think, God, that was incredible. She just was always like, yeah, tell me something. What can I do? Da-da-da-da. She's just ready to go. As good as it gets.
The epitome of professionalism.
And adding to it.
Now, where did the giant lion's head come from? That was a wonderful idea.
That must have come from David and Dan. It was there when I showed up. They were designing it, and then, of course, I think we went through at least 5, let's throw that away and not do that, designs of the lion. And
When the tongue comes down as the red carpet, it's such a great little moment.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I was determined to get... I was encouraged to drop those shots to make the day, and I refused.
Oh, that's good, because that's a fantastic sequence.
You gotta have it.
Luckily for you, none of this will happen.
No, we had it built so we could get the camera inside the mouth, if you will. And we rehearsed the dwarves in Ireland at Banbridge and had the lion at Banbridge. In fact, when we were shooting the shaving scene, I was going over to the other warehouse to look and check out the lion and rehearse the dwarves, oddly. I forgot about that. I love Marjorie and Brienne's relationship. I was really upset that I didn't get to do their scenes in other episodes.
But the women you write, George, it's such a joy. The show stands out in television, the strong women, the interesting three-dimensional women that you and David and Dan create. It's 50-50 on this show, and it's so rare.
It's unfortunately quite a unique thing, yeah.
Well, thank you.
The country has been at war too long. I hope your reign is long and peaceful.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope we see more of you.
Lady Brienne, you're Lord Selwyn-Tarth's daughter. That makes you a lady whether you want to be or not.
As you say, Your Grace.
I owe you my gratitude. You returned my brother safely to King's Landing.
In truth, he rescued me, Your Grace. More than once.
Did he? Haven't heard that story before.
In the books, of course, Brienne and Jaime are still on the road during the wedding. They are not present at the wedding. They're still trying to reach King's Landing, and they only come in afterwards. So that having them come in at the end of last season changed the whole dynamic here a little. And when writing this scene, I couldn't just straight adapt the scene as in the books. I had to consider, well, we have extra players here who were not there previously. What will they be doing?
Yeah, it was fun to integrate them all.
That was it. Like there were so many kind of players in play, and so many kind of little moments that had to kind of flow. And I think he did a very good job, Alex, in kind of making all these small little tidbits into a cohesive scene.
And there was a real time restraint, you know. You were, like you said, Alex running around like a headless chicken or whatever. I mean, I went with the light as well. It's actually incredible reflection when you look back how much we achieved in 5 days of shooting.
Well, there's actually, we're about to get to it, but there's parts of the sequence where you're on the entire cast, you're in the middle of the cut, and it's raining and it's really windy just off camera, and the sunlight that's hitting the actors is artificial. They're being lit. I mean, it was a little tricky. This scene always makes me laugh because David and Dan loved the scene for no other reason than to watch Lena just chew him out.
I know.
It was so fun.
God. I wonder if Lena enjoyed it as well.
Sir Dantos.
Again, one of the great ideas.
We haven't seen much of Sir Dantos in the show. In the books, he's much more present ever since where Sansa saves his life on the tournament on Joffrey's name day, and then he befriends Sansa, and he's meeting her secretly in the Godswood, and he's always promising that someday he'll help her escape. So there's a whole relationship there. With so much else to serve us, we lost that, but we bring him back here for his crucial role.
Talking about throwing things on people's heads, I think we've passed the moment, but Jack, you gave a good old hefty whack to...
Oh, stop it. That still plagues me.
The keyboard player of Seagar Ross with one of those coins.
It's true, that was really
awful.
horrible.
And that's actually Alex's fault.
Right in the forehead, right between the eyes.
That is 100% Alex's fault, because I was throwing these rubber coins very politely at their shins, and Alex said, no, you need to throw them at their heads. And I said, that will hurt them. And he said, I don't care. I want to see them bleed. No, he didn't say that. But it was along those lines.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Can I also say, Jack, that you just said I was throwing them very politely, which is, I'm so sorry, but you're playing Joffrey.
True. Well, as politely as I could. But then...
No, that was tricky. Yeah. It was tricky, but you were a very good shot.
But can I also say that the coins itself actually had my profile engraved onto them, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I stole one, and I have it in my room.
And I told
now.
you to take one. You wouldn't take
Yes.
one. You were being too professional. I said you have to take one.
Yeah.
It's your death moment. You have to take a coin.
Yeah, I stole one.
George, is this scene in the book? The four of them talking like this, the little conference.
No.
But it's pulling together the sense of what's in the books, I'm sure. I love that scene because it's a very political scene.
Yeah, and it's
everybody was really great. And the only thing I would say to all of them, all the way through shooting it, was no, just more polite. Just keep it polite the whole way through. They seem to like that. Here we go.
My lords.
And here comes the halftime entertainment.
Roll.
Yeah, featuring
I
Beyonce.
give you King Joffrey, Renly, Stannis.
Now, of course, this was a departure from the books. In the books, there are only two dwarfs, and they are jousting on real animals. One of them is riding a large dog, and the other one is riding a pig. Evidently, David and Dan assured me that they looked all over Europe for a pig that could be ridden, but they could not find a pig. A large pig. I looked online, and they're actually on YouTube. There are many pictures of people riding a pig, but usually they're only riding it for about 3 seconds.
Would say the pig is
then
very happy.
The pig throws them off, and they fall on the ground. So that would obviously not work here. But this is was a wonderful alternative solution to act out the Five Kings, the War of the Five Kings.
Amazing costumes, amazing.
I remember being genuinely shocked watching that moment in rehearsal, the first time we all saw it, because you did a stealth job, Alex, of not letting us see the performance until right before we were going to shoot it. And I remember sort of my mouth being agape and trying to remember my physical reaction so that I could replicate it, because it was actually quite troubling the first time you saw it.
Part of the reason for the initial walkthrough was to avoid you guys seeing the dwarves.
Yeah.
And so I could just cover everything.
Becoming immune to them.
Yeah, without you knowing what was going to happen. The other thing that you've got to do a shout out here again to Michelle Clapton is the design of each of the now dead kings' costumes that the dwarves are wearing are just incredible. And
yeah, stunning.
When her drawings came out, everybody was running around just laughing their heads off at how brilliant they were.
And these actors did such a fantastic job in the Croatian heat.
And of course, this is all taking us home.
They did it again and again and again and again and again.
And of course, one of these kings being mocked is Marjorie's first husband, and another one is Robb Stark. So the Natalie, your reactions and Sansa's reactions, just with your face and eyes, are wonderful. I mean, look at you there. It's great.
Yeah, this was great because it's really this that felt like it set off Marjorie. I mean, Marjorie did a great job up to this point. You just start to see for the first time the facade crack, and of course Sophie. Jack.
Spit take.
Till death do us part, Jack.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hopefully you're starting to get nervous.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely was. Marjorie definitely was.
Here you are. Champion's purse. Though...
Now, Jack, did you consciously design how you said uncle? Every time you said
no.
uncle, I got chills.
Really? No, I didn't even think about it. Uncle. I don't know, I suppose I just said it.
Take 7, you'd go, uncle, and I'd just be like, oh, God.
Yeah.
One taste of combat was enough for me, Your Grace.
I didn't also design the line of this pie is dry, or the pie is dry,
Oh,
hurry
boy.
up, the pie is dry.
Yeah,
but
we'll
that
get to
seemed
that.
to evoke some kind of hilarity.
Well, this pie is dry is probably the greatest production problem I've ever experienced on the show, which is that it created
It's the
a
only
laughing
time I've
fit.
been part of like a corpsing experience on this show, which I think is impressive, but I still felt a bit unprofessional.
We all got a bit hysterical, didn't we? I can't even remember what triggered it now.
Well, it was Peter and Lena.
was just
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not to place blame,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it
Those
was.
two.
I think we came back. It was the classic. Like we were just sort of after the middle of the day. People were tired, and this pie is dry. and they just lost control. And there's great footage of Peter stopping in the middle of a take and saying, "Lena, stop laughing." And she's like,
yeah,
"I can't
it's
help
the classic. Always blame it on the other person.
Mm-hmm. Now, the director of photography should be mentioned here because all the sunlight that's coming in and hitting everybody is the director of photography, not the sun. We were in the middle of a very windy storm. And then I still hear it in my ears because it was so perfectly done every single time, which is Natalie saying, "Oh, look, the pie."
Look at the pie. Uncle, you can be my cupbearer, seeing as you're too cowardly to fight.
Your Grace does me a
Yeah, the pie cutting bit was a very fun stunt.
That was... Well, yeah, we're a bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But, should we enjoy this? I'll let you...
Well, I was going to say something about Jack.
Enjoy this moment.
And Peter here, which is, you talk about directing the show, and you look at the arc of this trouble that we're getting into, and look at those eyes, and look at him. Basically, there was no directing in this, and it's important for the director to say that. The actors came in, look at her, and everyone's so dialed in and so talented and so thoughtful in their process that you go to rehearsal, and this is pretty much what happened. And you step back and say, okay, well, let's film it properly.
I don't know about that, Alex. I think I leaned on you quite a lot for this process.
I don't. I have to say that's not true. You and Peter, look at that.
What good is an empty cup?
I'm just looking at my crown now.
One of the things that's incredible, Jack, is how you look at Peter. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, no, just on a kind of a tangent. The crown, that's a new crown, and it had interneting the roses of the Tyrrell rose, kind of the idea that like Marjorie was kind of wrapping her finger around
getting
around my
inside your
crown.
head.
Yeah.
Beautiful idea.
Yeah. Our Emmy Award-winning Michelle Clapton yet again.
I said, kneel!
That tension was terrifying between you two.
Broken by you.
Pie.
Look, the pie.
It's going to be...
And here comes the pie.
This freaking pie. This went on for weeks.
So explain about the doves, Alex, because it worked out quite well in the end, didn't it?
It worked out well in the end. It was a comedic farce all the way up to that point. We had to pack. The inside of the pie was a contraption rigged with doves that were shot out by an air cannon. And the reason they were shot out by an air cannon is they didn't really know what to do when the thing opened up, so they were given a little motivation by the air cannon. And in the early tests of it, there was too much air in the air cannon, and they would blast these birds out with such force that they would come out in a pie-shaped clump, and they would be 6 feet above the pie.
No animals were harmed in the making of this.
They weren't, but you'd have a pie-shaped group of birds levitating above the pie for about a second and a half before they realized, hey, let's get out of here. And they would all fly away. And we had to have all of these birds because every take we did and every rehearsal we did, the birds that came out would fly home to Zagreb. So
you couldn't get them back.
We had a couple of, I think we had above more than 100 birds to do 4 takes or something like that. And this pie is dry, just went by.
Watch the goblet, watch the goblet.
Of course, this pie filled with birds was an actual feature of some royal weddings and similar events during the Middle Ages. We still have the poem 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. They are not actually baked in the pie, of course. They're put in later so they can fly out spectacularly.
So Jack and I met before the season began and talked about the death and the poison and what would happen. And we talked about him inhaling in such a way that you could feel that his air tube was closing. And he said, I'll think about that. And he came back 2 months later and did such a great job of suffocating. Now, this was shot in Valencia, California, in a parking lot. Both shots.
I heard about this.
Totally was. Oh my God.
Was it a reshoot?
Well,
because...
no. A very big part of the sequence was, is it bad enough? Because part of the approach was, we want to not overdo it. The flip side is, this is the most hated man in television history, and we want to see what we're looking at. And it went back and forth until when HBO, I think, or David and Dan saw the director's cut, they went, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And so we got everybody out to Valencia and shot Lena reacting to him over again. And then we had Rob Bottin, the great genius makeup master, come in and do what you're looking at here. And the visual.
So Jack flew to California to reshoot that death moment.
For the first time.
Little holiday. And I must say, I do feel very bad because for that final death mask, the shot that you wanted to get perfectly, I just couldn't open my eyes enough because the bloody Californian sun was streaming into my eyes, and I felt like I kind of ruined that final shot because I couldn't open my eyes enough.
You're wrong.
It's so interesting the point you make about making the most hated man in television and it being satisfying for the audience, because a lot of fans have come up to me since that episode that have gone, we wanted a more gruesome death, stabbed in the kneecaps first and then slowly sliced to pieces. Loving to hate Joffrey so much, to have this payoff of death. George, I heard you talking at the beginning of last season that there's nothing pornographic or gratuitous about the violence. It's so naturalistic and real. I felt like in the dying of Joffrey, we stuck to that manifest,
Yeah.
That it is realistic of how a poisoned death would be.
I mean, I do think it's a pretty horrible way to die, because I think there's the terror of knowing you're dying. It's not a sudden thing like we saw in episode 9 where Ygritte gets hit with an arrow and, she's dead a second later. It's, oh my God, I'm dying, I can't breathe. People say, well, why was it done at the wedding? As I wrote the scene, the idea is that they don't want it to look like a murder necessarily. The poison that is used there, the strangler, gives the effects of you're choking on a bit of food. And by serving it at a banquet, it creates the plausible thing, oh, he just choked on a bit of pie, as actually some princes did during the Middle Ages. And in some ways, this is based loosely on the death of Eustace, the king and heir of King Stephen during the English anarchy, who choked to death on lamprey pie and may have been poisoned, in fact.
Thanks for listening. This is Natalie Dormer signing off.
This is Jack Gleeson. Thanks for listening.
This is George R. R. Martin, and goodbye from Santa Fe.
And this is Alex Graves signing off. George, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your world.